Yo, what's up? I'll admit it, I'm very late to the party and I haven't used Promist filters for the longest time, but once I discovered them late in my career, I can't really think of not using them anymore. Obviously there's projects for it and there's others where you don't really need them, but a lot of my work revolves around filming female models or just filming in low light with a lot of available light. And Promist filters just give your entire video this gloomy, dreamy feeling, and it also complements female skin tones a lot. So on my Canon Z300 Mark III, it's very easy. Just use a Promist filter, slap it on top of your lens, and use the internal ND filters when shooting with it. But when shooting with the EOS R5 or basically any other camera without internal ND filters, it gets a little bit more complicated and you need to start stacking filters on top of each other, and that for me has always been a pain and a hassle, and that is probably one thing why I also discovered the Promist filters very late in my career, because you either need a Mattbox, which just makes your entire setup a lot bigger and more complicated, or as I already said, you need to stack up filters, and oftentimes that just doesn't work very well. So I was very pleased when Freewell reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to test their new variable ND filters featuring Promist. And that is actually pretty cool because I've been using Freewell ND filters for the longest time now and I love them. I have their variable ND filters, but I also have their magnetic solid ND filters, and those are basically the only ND filters I use other than my internal ND filters on the Z300 Mark III. So now these filters combine a variable ND filter with a 1/8 strength Promist filter. The package that I have is a 2-pack deal with a 2 to 5 stop ND filter as well as a 6 to 9 stop. So that basically covers everything. I mostly use the 2 to 5 stop because I'm mostly shooting either indoors or in sunrise and sunset situations, but with that 2-pack, you're covered. I personally got the 82mm version because most of our lenses are 82mm, and if I have a lens that has a smaller diameter, I'm just using a step-up ring. So to test the filters out, we took our friend Bianca, who's a TV host here in Vienna, and she needed some new materials for her website. So we just went out to a place in the sunset where there's a river in the background, and we really wanted to get this dreamy look feeling, so we shot a little bit of slow motion with our EOS R5 and the 24-70 2.8. So before we start talking about the mist, let's actually start talking about the variable ND, because I already have the Freewell 82mm hard stop ND filters without the mist version, and I noticed some minor differences. So overall, I really like the quality of the ND filters. They're hard stop ND filters. That means you don't have any cross polarization and you only have minimal vignetting, if any at all, when going all the way to 15mm on a full frame lens. The filters have a slight green tint, which I don't really mind shooting on the EOS R5 or the R6 because both of them have a little bit more of a magenta tint to it, so that basically cancels it out perfectly. When shooting on a camera like a Sony or Blackmagic Pocket 6K, it's easily fixable in post, or you just adjust your white balance slightly to it, so that's really not that big of an issue, but just throwing it out there, there's a tiny green tint to it. Speaking of the Blackmagic Pocket 6K, I also used the Freewell ND filters with the Blackmagic Pocket 6K, and since the Blackmagic doesn't have any infrared cut filters, you often have a lot of infrared pollution when shooting with ND filters. Although they don't state on their website that they do have an infrared cut filter, I feel like they cancel it out almost perfectly, and I was shooting on it with the Blackmagic Pocket 6K and I never really had any issues with infrared pollution when using the Freewell variable ND filters. Like I said, I noted a little difference between the mist version and the non-mist version. Both of them are hard stop variable ND filters, and on the mist version they click in place. So the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5 stop clicks in place when adjusting the strength of the ND filter. With my non-mist version, that doesn't really happen and I can gradually adjust from 2 to 5 stops and backwards, so I don't know why there's a difference between the two of them, and maybe just the one without the mist that I have is broken, but there's a difference, and on the mist version they click in place. So now let's talk about the mist version. And it only comes in one strength, and that is 1/8. And that is somewhat unfortunate because I would like to have more options, like a 1/4 or a 1/2. And the one strength that I usually use on my Canon Z300 Mark III is a 1/4. And that I don't have that option is somewhat unfortunate. However, I actually thought that the 1/8 on the Freewell was actually somewhat strong and I really liked the look. So here's a comparison because the regular variable ND filter and the one with the mist. And as you can see, it really gives you that dreamy look and it really gives you nice highlights and everything is really gloomy. So overall, I really do like the strength of the variable ND filter from Freewell. When it comes to the overall build quality, they're very solidly built, they have a really nice feel to it, especially when adjusting them, and they also come in a hard shell case, which I also prefer over most of the glass cases other filters come in. So now that I talked about everything that I liked, what do I not like about those filters? And those are really small details. The one I already mentioned is that it doesn't come in different strength and only in a 1/8 strength version. The second thing I personally find really unfortunate is that they don't come in a 95mm version, because I have a 95mm variable ND filter for my Canon 28-70 2.0, which is the lens that I mostly use on the EOS R5. And the mist version just doesn't come in that size. So for me that is really unfortunate because, as I've already mentioned, this is the lens that I use the most. I don't know if they have any plans in the future to actually implement a 95mm version, but as of right now, there just is none. So that's why I had to film this entire video with a 2.8 version instead of my 28-70 2.0. But overall, that's pretty much it. And I definitely recommend those filters if you don't want to stack up any filters, if you're not using a Mattbox, if you just want to have a really solid variable ND filter with the option of a mist. So I will put a link down in the description below so you can check them out as well. And I hope you liked this little review, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up because it really helps the channel grow. Follow me on Instagram for more behind the scenes and just see what's happening in the Monkey Pixels world. Subscribe to our channel for more, and I hope to see you on the next one.